The FDA to get a third coronavirus vaccine shot. So this will be good news to many folks who have been worried about this. And this is coming after a recent study by Johns Hopkins researchers. What they found was that vaccinated immunocompromised people are 485 times. Can you believe that? That's such a big number. They're more likely that many times to end up in the hospital or to die from COVID-19 compared to the general population that has gotten the shot. And the CDC's vaccine panel is scheduled to meet today to discuss booster doses. So the amount here. Dr. Fauci says it is inevitable that even healthy people will require booster shots soon.
Right now, the decision is we don't need to do it right now. It's not imminent. But we're preparing as if it will be imminent. So we're going to be ready to do it whenever the data shows that the protection has gone below a certain level because of a combination of the durability of protection and the special effect you're seeing with the Delta variant.
Dr. Fauci also says the Delta variant is putting more children in hospitals. At this moment, nearly 1,800 children are battling COVID in the hospital. That's the highest number at any point during this pandemic. So joining us now is CNN Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, this decision from the FDA came overnight, the decision to authorize a third shot for the immunocompromised. How significant is this?
I think it's really significant for that group of people, 9 to 10 million people that we're talking about. Not surprising for all the reasons you just mentioned. I mean, I think there's been increasing evidence of two important things. One is that they've been measuring antibody levels. They see the antibody levels have waned, but also that these people were getting more likely to end up in the hospital, more likely to get severely ill. So it's really a combination of those two things. Measuring antibody levels alone may not be the thing that everyone's focusing on, but the fact that people were getting sick. Show you who we're talking about here. Immunocompromised. This is going to be something that we are going to want to have them define clearly. Solid organ transplant recipients, they take medications to suppress their immune system so that their own immune system does not attack their new transplanted organ, right? So they are clearly on that list, but there are other people on the list as well, people who may recently have had chemotherapy, people who take immunosuppressants because of autoimmune disease. Again, they're going to need to define that clearly, but it's going to make a big difference in millions of people's lives, I think. In fact, I want to introduce you to a patient who's been sort of struggling with this and is probably now going to live a different life after this is officially passed by the CDC. Take a look.
39-year-old Kimberly Cooley got her second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine back in February. She hoped at the time it would be a game changer.
I knew that there was a possibility that it would not work for me, but given the situation with COVID and the pandemic, it was definitely worth the try.
She lived her life, hugged her nephews, felt free once again. But then
I went to a local clinic near my home and requested a antibodies test and received the results, and I did not mount any antibodies.
It wasn't a surprise for Kimberly because back in 2018, she had had a liver transplant and now takes medications to suppress her immune system so her new liver isn't rejected. Unfortunately, that also means she is immunocompromised. Her immune system has a much harder time making antibodies after receiving the COVID vaccine.
We really don't have an immune system to fight off the virus. And so, it's kind of an open game.
A study of over 18,000 fully vaccinated transplant patients like Kimberly found that relative to the general population, they were 82 times more likely to develop a post-vaccination infection and 485 times more likely to be hospitalized or die from COVID-19.
I have to really be cautious about going into crowds and who I'm around. Every single move I make regarding my life is calculated.
In addition to her already high risk, she lives in Mississippi, one of the least vaccinated states in the country and one with high transmission of virus as well. A risky mix, one that leaves her with little community protection to feel comfortable enough to connect with her young nephews.
It's just too risky. I mean, with my being a transplant patient, they almost lost me once, and I don't want to put myself in a position for them to almost lose me again.
We're already seeing clinical trial data on solid organ transplant patients where a third dose of one of the 2-dose regimens may boost their immunity.
This is what Dr. Amish Adalja is talking about. Look at this graph. In transplant recipients who received the standard 2 doses, they developed some antibodies. But after a third shot, look what happened. The antibody levels went way up. And this is why the FDA is now authorizing a third shot for the roughly 9 million immunocompromised patients in the country.
At this time, only certain immune-compromised individuals may need an additional dose.
But none of this necessarily means that another shot will be recommended for everyone else.
What are you looking for as maybe some early clues that we would need booster shots?
I want to know what's happening to these patients clinically. Are they getting breakthrough infections? And are those breakthrough infections clinically significant, meaning are they severe enough to land them in the hospital?
For now, the vaccines continue to protect most of us very well against severe illness. As for Kimberly, though, her own doctors have already signed off on her getting that third shot. And when she can,
that will be the first thing that I do is go see my nephews and sneak that one more hug in.
I mean, that is what matters right there. Sanjay, I wonder what happens next for people like Kim.
Well, you know, the CDC is now going to officially recommend this. The FDA authorizes this third shot. The CDC recommends it. And as part of it, they're going to define again who is considered immunocompromised. I think it's pretty clear Kimberly is considered this because she's had this organ transplant. But, you know, that's going to be important. And they're also going to need to define specifics like right now we think 28 days at least after your second shot, could you be eligible for this third shot? So, you know, specifics like that are what's going to happen, but you already heard Kimberly's already gotten the okay from her doctor, so she's going to be in line pretty quickly to do this. I do want to point out again, what is so interesting is that immunity is made up of so many different things. We've talked about this on your program so many times. Antibodies, yes, we measure those, they're easy to measure, but there may be other things that the vaccines do in terms of providing immunity. And unless people are getting severe illness after vaccination, it's not clear when or even if those third shots will be recommended for everyone else. So we'll see. We'll see. But for